Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to the face and the card making space and another STAMPtember limited edition exclusive collaboration. For those that might be new or just need a refresher, throughout the month of September, Simon's Stamp has collaborated with a ton of crafty brands to bring out some limited edition exclusive sometimes stamp and die and stencil sets that are only available while supplies last. So they're one and done. When they sell out, that's it. They're not being restocked. It is just part of the excitement, and there's tons that are coming out or have come out, depending on when, things fall. So today's video is with the Honeybee Stamps collaboration, which love, and always. If and when the set sells out, Honeybee has a ton of amazing products. Ton. Stamps and dies and stencils and pattern paper and gem stickers and wax melts and wax seals, like embossing folder, tons of amazing products. I will link to the Honeybee product line in the description box below the video. They are one of my favorites. And this stamp set was amazing. All the things, I will have links to all of the things, as always, in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links, end up placing an order, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. It's what helps pay the bills and keeps the channel going. I think that's all the housekeeping. Let's get into making this card. So this is the Sending Autumn Blessings limited edition collaboration set with Honeybee Stamps. This is a 6x8 stamp set, and it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. There's these clusters of pumpkins. There's two different, I call them cluster images, and then there's like individual pumpkins and leaves and a whole bunch of sentiments, and it's just a beautiful set. So I chose one of the clusters, and I have some distress watercolor paper in my MISTI, and I had used my anti-static powder tool on it. That just helps prevent the embossing powder from clinging to anything other than the stamped image. And I inked up and stamped the image with Simon's clear embossing ink. And I stamped it a couple times to make sure I got all that detail. And then I coated it with Simon's Detail Gold embossing powder. And honestly, these images are so pretty. You could kind of go a little clean and simple, especially if you don't like to color, and just heat emboss them. I end up doing this on the inside. I'll show it later in the video, but it's just pretty. I love it. So after I coated it with the embossing powder, tapped off the excess, and then melted it with my heat tool till everything was smooth and shiny and melted and amazing. And I'm going to use Distress Oxide inks to watercolor these in. I'm just going to show all the colors I'm using on screen. I'll have them linked also in the supplies. But I've got Fossilized Amber, Carved Pumpkin, Crackling Campfire, Antique Linen, Bundled Sage, Rustic Wilderness, and Forest Moss. So I've got all my colors. I have a little palette here. It's just a little plastic palette. Any non-porous surface will work. Heck, back in the day, I've even used like the stamp packaging because you can just wipe it off when you're done. And I'm just mushing like the sides of the ink pads because you don't need very much, especially since I'm only doing the one image. Trust me, if I had more hours in the day, days in the week, I would have made like 20 cards with this set. It was hard to limit myself, but I got too much other things I need to get done. So anyway, I just did the one. So I smushed all my ink pads, and then I have off camera, I have a big old jar of water and a cloth that I use to wipe my brush on, and I'm using some watercolor brushes and just swirling them in the colors. I would swirl the brush in the water, pick up some of the Oxide ink, and paint. This is heavily sped up in editing. I don't paint this quickly. It still didn't take a super long time. I just kind of worked my way around. I just picked a pumpkin, started coloring it in. So that first one I did like the Crackling Campfire and Carved Pumpkin and Crackling Campfire. The second one I did the Antique Linen and Bundled Sage. The one on the bottom was Fossilized Amber with a bit of the Carved Pumpkin. This one I'm doing the Carved Pumpkin and Crackling Campfire again. And trying to keep some lighter areas, so a little less color. And just, again, wiping my brush off in between. this last pumpkin, I did the crackling campfire, and then I mixed a little bit of the forest moss with the crackling campfire, which just kind of dulls down and deepens the color a little bit. And so painted that on there. And then I used the forest moss to paint the stems. And then for the leaves, I used the bundled sage and rustic wilderness and just got that color on there, leaving a little bit of white space. Not much. For me, that's a very difficult thing. I'm heavy-handed always with everything. Like even having lighter areas sometimes is an achievement in my books. So after it was dry, I cut it out. And then I pulled out this Simon Says Stamp basket weave 3D embossing folder and another piece of distressed watercolor paper. And I lightly misted the paper with water just to make it a little more malleable so you get a better embossed impression. And I use my Anna Griffin Empress die cutting machine with the embossing folders. And for me and Simon's brand embossing folders, one cutting plate is all you need. And then I get great results. So I did that, and then I also pulled out the Simon Says Stamp nested domed arches frames wafer die set, and I die cut some gold glitter cardstock and kept the interior piece, put it back in the package because specialty papers, I keep every little tiny scrap because you never know. It's perfect to die cut, other little things from. So I die cut gold glitter paper as well as a piece of white cardstock and glued them together just to give that frame a little bit more dimension. And then I'm also using the new Honeybee Great Greetings Everyday die set. It's just a good one. A good basic die set because you've got the word happy, hello, congrats, and thanks. And I use the thanks word in the outline. And I die cut the thanks word from some matte gold cardstock, the outline from vellum, and hearing those together. And then I die cut the thanks word also from a scrap of white cardstock. And I'm going to adhere that to the back underneath, like on the back of the vellum. This is just going to make it easier for me to adhere this to the finished project without showing any adhesive because glue shows through vellum and it's not pretty. So this will give me somewhere to put the adhesive because I can just put it on the cardstock without touching the vellum. Plus it gives it just a tiny bit of lift, so the vellum floats just a smidge. So set those aside. I trimmed down the background that I had run through with the embossing folder to about 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And then I took the antique linen oxide ink pad, and I'm not pressing the ink pad. I'm just very lightly running it across this background. So all those raised edges will pick up that ink. So no pressure doing that. I don't want to smush, a bunch of ink all over it. I just wanted that little extra bit of detail on this. And then I'm going to adhere my frame to this background. Again, just using craft tacky glue, get that pressed into place. And then my little cluster of pumpkins, I'm going to adhere that with some of Simon's thin foam squares because one, it'll pop them up, but also it levels everything out since that frame is 2 layers of cardstock and is popped up a little bit. So this will also pop these up, but then it just evens everything out between the frame and the background. So pop those into place. And then of course we're going to add a bit of splatter because that is what I do. I've got my Gonzai Tompi Starry colors and the gold, the one that is most used, obviously. I need a lifetime supply of this stuff. Anyway, put a little bit of water in there, swirled it up real good with my fan brush. I have my background in my splat box, and then I'm just going to add a bit of gold splatter. Not a ton, but just a bit. It's just going to add a little extra shiny because why not? So added that, let it dry, and then, pattern paper. I've talked about this on my channel many times. Honeybee has been coming out with pattern paper for I forget how long now. Those of you that have been around for a long time might remember, basic gray pattern paper and might know how much I was obsessed with basic gray pattern paper. And I was heartbroken when they went out of the pattern paper business. Honeybees is the closest to that. Just the patterns and the color combos and everything. Love. I hoard their pattern paper just like I used to hoard the basic gray stuff. It's beautiful, but look at me. I used some of it, like yay me, I picked one of the plaid patterns. This is the Fall is in the Air pack. This is one of their newer ones, and it's like like I showed, I had to flip through it and show it to you guys because it was beautiful. So I trimmed down a panel that was A2 size, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I used that little strip that was left over, adhered it to the inside of my card base. My card base is a top folding A2 white note card. And then I used my anti-static powder tool, and I'm stamping that pumpkin cluster again on the inside with the clear embossing ink. And it's not going to stamp completely perfect right next to the pattern paper because there's 2 levels there, but I got most of it and I was happy with that. And then I coated it with the gold embossing powder. And this is what I said in the beginning. Normally I don't heat emboss on the insides of my cards because the insides are just kind of extra, and I'm not going to go to, all that extra work. But like I said, this image just called for it. It was meant to be. And then after I did this, I was like, this could be a card too. I don't do a lot of clean and symbol, but I do it on the inside of my cards. So I gold heat embossed it right over that pattern paper on the inside of the card. And then I stamped one of the sentiments from that set with the Crackling Campfire Oxide ink. And then folded my card closed, adhered that gorgeous pattern paper to the card front. And then I had adhered a piece of cardstock behind the embossed panel. This just gave it a little extra dimension without having to use like foam tape because I didn't want a ton of bulk going on. And then trace the back of my sentiment with the adhesive. This is why I've got that cardstock piece there. It just makes it so much easier. And then I can press that into place. Once that is adhered, my last little embellishment is the honeybee coordinating Fall is in the Air gem stickers. I hoard these too, really. Is anyone surprised? But sometimes I make myself use them. And these are self-adhesive. So I just use my little honeybee die pokey tool to peel them up and press them into place. And once I've got a few of these clustered around my image, this card is complete. So we've got these just gorgeous pumpkins and the sentiment and the pattern paper, and it's just so fall, so autumn, so demure, so mindful. I love it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, I appreciate you all hanging out with me today. Hope you enjoyed the card and the video and my random verbal contribution to this. And as always, links to all the things will be in the description box below the video. Just hit the more button or expand it to see it all, and it'll all be there for you. Thank you all so very much, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in supporting me over on Patreon, the link to that is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye.